Michael Jackson's private garage was sealed for almost 15 years after his passing in 2009. Behind those locked doors lay more than just cars. It was a personal museum, a frozen piece of the King of Pop's world that nobody had seen since his final days. Fans speculated endlessly about what might be hidden inside. Some thought it was filled with luxury vehicles worth millions. Others believed it held personal items that could completely change how we remember him. For years, the truth remained a mystery, carefully guarded by his estate. When the decision was finally made to open it, it wasn't done with the glare of cameras or the noise of a crowd. It was a quiet, almost reverent moment. A small group of estate managers, archivists, and security gathered at the site. Michael's eldest son, Prince, was also present, standing silently as the heavy doors slowly opened. What lay behind them wasn't just a collection of automobiles, it was a glimpse into Michael's private life, a side of him even his children had rarely seen. The air inside carried the faint scent of leather, oil, and polish. The cars had been kept in immaculate condition, almost as if Michael had only just stepped out of them. Each one had its own story, and together they revealed different sides of the man the world called the King of Pop. The first thing that caught everyone's attention was not a luxury limo or a sports car, but something far simpler, a Peter Pan-themed golf cart. At first glance, it seemed out of place among the high-end vehicles, but for Michael, it made perfect sense. Peter Pan was more than just a character to him, it was a symbol of eternal youth, of holding on to innocence and imagination no matter how old you became. The cart was decorated with playful details, a reminder of the childlike wonder that defined much of his personality. It wasn't a vehicle meant to impress, it was one meant to spark joy. Parked nearby was one of the most breathtaking vehicles in the collection, a 1999 Rolls-Royce Silver Seraph limousine. On the outside, it gleamed with elegance, but the inside was where it truly came alive. The interior looked like a royal palace on wheels. Gold-plated trim, crystal light fixtures, and custom upholstery gave it a regal presence. This wasn't just a car, it was a moving sanctuary, a place where Michael could retreat from the pressures of fame and surround himself with beauty and fantasy. Witnesses said stepping inside felt like walking into one of his music videos, where imagination and reality blended seamlessly. But not all of Michael's cars were designed to dazzle. Tucked off to the side was a 1985 Mercedes-Benz 500 SEL. Compared to the Rolls-Royce, it looked ordinary, but in reality, it was one of the most personal vehicles he ever owned. This was the car he used for everyday trips, driving between his Encino home and the recording studio. Imagine the melodies of songs like Bad or Dangerous echoing in his mind as he sat behind that wheel, windows rolled up, the outside world unaware of the genius unfolding inside. Later, he gifted the car to his aunt, who loved it so much she had a custom license plate made that read TKSMKL. It was a small gesture, but one that showed how deeply personal his connection to this vehicle had been. Another treasure found in the garage was a 1954 Cadillac Fleetwood, a car with its own place in Hollywood history. It had been featured in the Oscar-winning film Driving Miss Daisy. For Michael, owning this car wasn't just about luxury, it was about holding onto a piece of art, a piece of cinema that had touched millions. Michael wasn't only a performer, he was a lover of history and culture, and this car was proof of that. The collection didn't stop there. There were other vehicles that reflected different chapters of his life. Sleek tour buses, designed to carry him and his team across the globe, still smelled faintly of leather and perfume. Some of them had been customized with private lounges and entertainment systems, allowing Michael to travel in comfort while staying connected to his music. Even motorcycles were tucked away, polished and spotless, though Michael was rarely seen riding them in public. They were symbols of freedom, reminders that beyond the flashing cameras and bodyguards, he sometimes longed for the simple thrill of the open road. One of the most surprising discoveries was how well everything had been preserved. The estate had gone to extraordinary lengths to protect the garage. Climate controls were installed to prevent damage from heat or humidity. Dust covers draped over the cars, and only a handful of people were ever allowed to step inside. It wasn't just about maintaining the vehicle's financial value, it was about treating them as artifacts of cultural history. As Prince walked through the garage, witnesses described him pausing at certain cars, touching the polished metal, and quietly reflecting. For him and his siblings, Paris and Blanket, this wasn't about fame or money. It was about connecting with their father in a deeply personal way. These were the cars he had driven, the spaces where he had laughed, thought, and dreamed. In a world where Michael's life was constantly dissected by the media, this garage offered something rare: intimacy. What makes this story even more powerful is what the estate chose to do after opening the garage. Michael's financial troubles in his final years had left the estate with massive debts. Selling off the cars could have brought in millions and helped erase those numbers. But the decision was made not to sell. Karen Langford, one of the archivists working with the estate, explained that these vehicles were part of Michael's legacy and would remain preserved until his children were ready to decide their fate. They weren't trophies to be auctioned, they were memories, too important to be lost. When you think about it, that choice says everything about how Michael's family and estate view his legacy. It isn't just about the money. It's about preserving who he was, the dreamer, the artist, the man behind the fame. These cars were more than engines and wheels. They were reflections of his imagination, his passions, and his struggles. Some showed his love of grandeur, others his appreciation for history, and some, like the whimsical golf cart, revealed his desire to hold on to innocence. Walking through that garage was like walking through Michael's mind. You saw the child, the artist, the superstar, and the man. Each car was a chapter in his story. And while the world may have focused on his controversies, scandals, and headlines, here in this quiet garage, you found something different, evidence of a man who dreamed big, who lived passionately, and who sought joy in the little things. Even now, the garage remains a symbol of who Michael Jackson truly was. Not just the king of pop, but a human being searching for freedom, beauty, and meaning in a world that often demanded too much of him. For his children, it will forever be a place where they can step into his world and feel his presence, not through songs or performances, but through the personal spaces he left behind. And for fans, knowing what's inside that garage adds another layer to his story. It reminds us that behind the glittering costumes, the stage lights, and the record-breaking albums, there was a man who loved cars, who collected memories, and who found comfort in the same everyday things that many of us do. The garage is not just a collection of vehicles. It is, in many ways, Michael Jackson's final performance, silent, preserved, and waiting to be remembered.